Hello. Today is the beginning of a long story, and this story is very important to me, um, and it's personal, and it's kind of the worst thing that I've ever done. Um, it's something I think about every day, and it's going to be a little more serious, I guess, than other videos I've made. I'm going to do everything I can to protect this person's identity, and well, I'm not gonna need to do that. I'm not gonna mention anything that could possibly even anywhere near give any idea of who this person actually is. It's just someone who was and is very important to me, um, and that's about it. So going back right when COVID happened, I guess. Um, I had just got my first job. Well, not my first job, my first adult job. I'd worked a few places before, but I had a long history of a rough school life. As I had also mentioned before, I was in the hospital for 2 months and I had to do schooling there. And then what I haven't mentioned is that I was kicked out of a Christian school, and that's a crazy story actually. And I just did the last 2 years of high school as cyber school, so I just stayed home. So I was already feeling quite isolated at this part of my life, and I was excited to get my first job, where I would be working with other people and stuff. But unfortunately, the day that I started was the day they decided to have people start working from home. So I was basically given a box with a computer and stuff in it, and they sent me to work at home. And so I never actually I was very isolated. And I was trying my best to, I guess, well, I should mention that I went to my grandmother's house to work, though that didn't really help that much. But I just know that I'm going to mention at some point driving home, and it's going to be weird because I said I work from home. Anyway, I was so lonely, and I hated that job also. It was a call center for tech support for a company in my town, and everyone was super mean. And then that's not really the point, but every night, yeah, I would go to my car at my grandma's house, and it would just be dark and cold, and it's just not a good life. And I started to, I don't know where or how I did it, I can't remember, but I mean, I've always been a little bit artistic, and but I happened across an artist on Instagram, and I was like, wow, look at all the friends this person has. I would look at their comments on their art, and they would have tons and tons of people just hyping them up and being super nice and stuff like that. And I liked that, and I just really wanted to be a part of that, and I was jealous. So I got my laptop, which is a Chromebook, which is what I did my cyber school on, and it's a touchscreen. And so I downloaded IBIS Paint X, and I drew a little picture of Pikachu sniffing a little piece of steam, I guess. I'm gonna put that on the screen and I will show you guys. This is the drawing. It's pretty basic. Just, I like Pikachu and I made it. Yeah. So that was my first art thing in the modern world. And I made a whole account and everything like that. And I made my profile picture on that account, just my trainer card from Pokemon Sword and Shield, because I didn't really know what else to put there. I didn't want my face on it yet or anything like that. But then, I was still very lonely and stuff like that. I hadn't you know, it's not like you just create a following the day you make the account. But after a few days, I was messaged by someone, and they said, "Excuse me, are you perhaps a fan of Pokemon Sword and Shield?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And I looked, and it was like a very popular, super talented artist. And I was excited to meet someone. So I I started messaging this person. I said, "Yeah, I'm a huge fan. I love your art and stuff." And we got to talking, and well, things got like we got really close. It was clear that this person, who I'm going to call Jay, Jay, he was a bit isolated as well. I got the idea just based on the way they talk. I mean, like not an idea. I got the idea that they might be isolated based on, after countless days of asking what they're up to, they just kind of never mentioned hanging out with friends or anything like that. Not in a bad way. This was a thing that was by their choice. He was an incredibly sociable person and very kind and funny, and I think that he was just busy taking care of his mom and things like that, and so you know, he kind of just worked on his art and his schooling and things like that. So it's not like I don't mean to portray him as like a shut-in or anything like that. It was just circumstantial. So things got a little bit romantical pretty quick, because you know, it was just us talking to each other all day. I remember I got very afraid one day because he said, "I'm gonna take my dogs for a walk," and then he was gone for like 2 hours, and I just, like, it was weird. Like, I never really cared this much about someone online before, but I started to like wonder, like, is he okay? Like, it's weird, it's strange, you know, like taking the dog for a walk shouldn't be that long. And I just got worried, and I realized it was interesting that I was so worried about someone. I wasn't like worried like, oh, why isn't he texting me back? I just was like worried for his safety, because you're out in public, you never know what happens, I guess. I don't know. And at that point, it kind of hit me like, wow, I really care about this person, which I already knew that, but things got pretty flirty very, very fast. Talking to this Jay really made my art, I'll say quote unquote art, it really helped me motivate myself to keep trying to be as good as he was. And it was clear that this person, he really liked me too. And it meant a lot to me, because I was, at this point, very overweight, and I'll probably make a video on losing all the weight and stuff like that. And I was isolated, I was alone, and someone that was just so like beautiful and talented and funny really liked me. And I liked him too. So we never really dated or anything. We didn't do in a long distance relationship, but I want to say that like the relationship we did have was like more than anything I could actually put a label on. It was like Ash and Pikachu. Like, we were a set. And I don't know, it was almost like it had always been that way. Like, it kind of felt like to me that I was always with him long before the point that we had actually met. And well, we yeah, my mind is kind of racing thinking about this. So sorry, I know my thoughts aren't exactly collected, but we did a lot of things together. We started having Pokemon battles, which was a lot of fun. I don't have anyone to play Pokemon with, even to this day, really, but I always wanted to. I loved creating teams with like a theme and things like that. And, you know, I never had someone to practice with. And we would end up battling a lot. And he would always use like a strong legendary team. And I would tend to use either a mix of Pokemon or just not legendaries. And it made it really fun for me. It was really challenging. He would just, you know, beat the shit out of me all the time. But it was fun, and I would learn things that I could use against him. He loved Xerneas so much, and I could always count on him using Geomancy or Geomancy. I don't know how to pronounce the attack, but it's basically a stat boosting move. And I remember I got a special Sneasel with Snatch, I think, and I evolved it into Weavile, and I was like so ready to have this battle. I don't remember actually who won, but I know using the move Snatch basically steals the stat moves before a Pokemon can benefit from them. And so I was so excited. Things like that. He gave me a lot of really special Pokemon that I still have and care about. And basically, weirdly, because I'm making this video now, it may seem like the opposite, but he became very, very enamored with me, like to a level that is less than healthy. And I would say in a lot of ways, I also was obsessed too. And that ended up causing a lot of problems and a lot of hurt for Jay and for myself too. And I'm probably going to end the video here and make another part tomorrow. But I'll say that what happened was I subconsciously manipulated this person because in my head, I felt like it was the only way to keep him in my life. And I didn't even realize I was doing it. And so I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. And I will see you there.